Well, let's bring in Thomas de Barros. He is a Brazilian researcher and political analyst, and he joins us now from Paris. Thank you for your time. Talk me through Brazil's problem with systemic racism.
Good night. Thank you very much for inviting me. Indeed, Brazil has a systemic problem with racism. Racism is a reality. In Brazil, Black Brazilians are, first of all, the poorest, are among the poorest groups in the country. No doubt this is a heritage from slavery that up to date we were not able to deal with. They are also the largest group victim of violence in Brazil nowadays. And while they compose the largest part of people in prisons in Brazil, what we see is that the violence against Black Brazilians, the violence targeting Black Brazilians, goes frequently unpunished.
I mean, there was a time, of course, when the country with the largest economy in Latin America thrived on slavery. How has Brazil confronted its racist past? I mean, has it?
Brazil has had a difficulty in dealing with this. After the end of slavery, no affirmative action was taken to incorporate black people in the Brazilian economy. So up to date, we see these inegalities to continue to perpetuate. It's been 132 years since the end of slavery, and we do not see lots of changes. In the last 30 years, 20 years, we had some experiences of affirmative action that started very slowly to change the reality of the country, but still we have a lot of work to do.
Kabagambe's death has sparked these nationwide protests. Do you think the country has reached a tipping point?
I believe it was the last straw, let's say. Some people have been comparing the case of Kabagambe with George Floyd's murder, in the US. It shocked because of its cruelty, of the brutality. He was tied and beaten to death in Rio. And moreover, he was a refugee. And I think that it produced some kind of shame among Brazilians. I mean, we were supposed to welcome refugees, but instead what we've been doing is to mistreat them, is to beat these vulnerable people to death. So in Brazil, it was really shocking. And because people started to protest and was shocked by the images also of this crime, what we saw is that investigations started to develop, and well, we see this mobilization that try to change reality, to impact reality.
General elections are later this year. How do you think that racism will feature in the elections?
So we can say that today, for instance, we had big demonstrations in almost every big Brazilian city. These demonstrations gather the African diaspora, the Congolese diaspora in Brazil, but also many social movements. Whereas political parties were not necessarily present with their flags, they were there, but social movements were there. Diverse social movements, different social movements were gathering, and they were claiming for justice, they are claiming for the end of racism in Brazil. But we also saw, together with this, some protests against Bolsonaro, against his government, that is seen as perpetuating, incentivizing violence, police brutality. And we know that the main target of police violence and brutality and violence in general is the Black people in Brazil. So maybe this will become an important topic this year because we have elections in October.
All right, we have to leave it there for time. Hey, thank you very much for your time, Thomas de Barros there,
Thank
Brazilian
you very much.
researcher and political analyst.